Hello, and welcome to day 36 of our daily Bible reading. We will be looking at the end of Exodus today, Exodus 39 to 40, Psalm 15, and Acts 12. At this point in Exodus, Moses is blessing the work of the artisans and all of the donations of the Israelites that have been put together to complete the tent of blessing. It is all set up, and God affirms that Moses has led this well and the project has been completed. What this makes me think about is, do we do everything that God instructs us to do, and do we do it well? How often are we giving God the leftovers of our time or our resources? How many of us have updated our houses, remodeled our living rooms, and given the leftover furniture to church? How many of us have gone through schools and businesses to find leftovers? Now, there's definitely a place for a good deal. I have a wonderful conference room table in my office that was thrown out by a business that was upgrading their offices. So there are times when getting a good deal is a great way to steward our resources. But there are other times that we put a lot more effort into our personal homes than we put into our churches or the work that we do for God. And I think as we read through this whole list of everything that the Israelites did in order to build the tent of meeting, I think we need to look at ourselves and say, are we putting this kind of effort? Are we using our best skills? Are we giving our first fruits to God in our church life today? Now, once they finished the tent of blessing, the tent of meeting, God filled it with his presence. Everyone knew when God was there because there was a pillar of cloud or a pillar of fire there. And this makes me wonder, do we really expect to encounter God when we go to our gathering places, our tents of meeting, our church buildings, or wherever we're gathering together? Do we expect to be in God's presence, or are we looking forward more to the social interactions, to maybe feeling better, getting some comfort? Maybe we have some self-improvement goals that will be a better person from having spent some time at church. And I think one of the things we need to think about is, what role do we have in our gathering time for being in God's presence? And do we need to make some adjustments to how we think about worship, how we organize our worship, to make sure we're actually spending time with God and not just doing what we feel like doing or being there in order to be gathered together with people that we care about? Looking at Psalm 15, this is a really short psalm. It's short, sweet, and to the point. It is a psalm of teaching. It's not so much of a prayer or a lament. It's not a praise, but it's telling us things about God and what God expects of us. Some people believe that the beginning part of this psalm is a conversation between a priest and a worshiper, those people who would like to enter the temple, and the priest is instructing them as to what God expects. Overall, this psalm stresses moral characteristics, not so much cultic characteristics. And what I mean by that is it's more concerned about our behavior. What actions have we taken in our daily lives as compared to what do we believe or what sort of religious rituals are we engaged in? So basically, this psalm is telling us that moral conduct is how we live in God's presence and how we live under God's protection. In Acts 12, King Herod is really on a tear now with persecution of Christian believers and Christian leaders. He kills James, and now he goes and he arrests Peter. And his goal is that after the Passover celebration, then he's going to hang Peter and execute him publicly. Now, angels come and save Peter, release him from jail, and Herod, in his anger, ends up executing the soldiers that let this happen. But then he just goes on vacation. He just kind of throws up his arms and says, like, hey, whatever. In the end, God strikes down Herod. Herod is corrupt through and through. He gives no credit to God for anything in his life. He does not have any respect for God. And that is the end of this King Herod. Through all of this, the church is continuing to grow. Saul and Barnabas have been delivering the offerings that they collected to the people, and they are continuing their ministry. What I was thinking about after reading this today is I was struck that no matter what is going on in one place, in the life of the church, in this case, persecution under King Herod. God's work is continuing in other places. God's ministry is continuing on. And some places the church is growing strong, some places the church is struggling. But God's work is always continuing to grow and expand throughout the world. And we need to keep working through whatever chaos we may be feeling in our life or in our situation, in our location. And sometimes we're the ones called to gather together an offering to send it to another part of the church. Sometimes we're the ones who need to receive help from other parts of the church. Sometimes we just need to be faithful and obedient and keep doing what God has given us to do. Hope this gives you something to reflect on today, and we'll see you next time.